Time is a super funny thing in Kardmi. And today I actually haven't really dove much into the Kardmi lore, but I want to dive into some speculation because some things aren't really adding up. And I want to look at some theories that I think, we could see in the future about where the story is going because season two has really left a lot more questions than answers. Don't get me wrong. Narrative team absolutely cooked, but there's a lot of big questions looming about the future of the game, narratively speaking. And let's dive into that. So if you guys haven't completed the campaign of season two, this is your spoiler warning. We're getting into some spoilers here for season two and some as well about season one. One thing that I would like to talk about, and the main thing I would say that I would like to talk about, is this time loop. There are things that I'm not really understanding about how the time loop works, and I have some theories. And the main thing that I wanted to bring up that I thought was really, really interesting is why does it seem like the rest of the world is stuck in this time loop, but Lone Star City is the only city that seems to be unaffected by the time loop? I don't have any proof about that. I do need to run around and talk to some more NPCs, just randomly see what they say, see some of their generic dialogue, to see if they can give me some hints, some clues, whether or not they have persistent memory of the world of Kardmi and the continent of Gerdon and the events of previous cycles. Because what I think is super interesting is there is physical proof that Lone Star City is not affected by the time loop. And it is just how sprawling of a metropolis, how technologically advanced that Lone Star City is. And that on its own wouldn't normally mean anything. However, when you look at Lone Star City and you look at the other cities in comparison, Lone Star City is far more technologically advanced. I mean, it's probably a century ahead of the other cities that we've been to. You think about it, we wake up in Sweetwater Town, and it's just a nice modern day city. And correct me if I'm wrong, there are no automobiles in Sweetwater Town. I can't remember for sure. I have to go back and look. But I know Summerdale Harbor has some more modern type automobiles. Munchak Town has none. Kimu has none. So it seems like there's some discrepancy in timelines for some of these cities. Like some are more primitive than others. And then you get to Lone Star City, and Lone Star City is like something straight out of sci-fi. You have these hypersonic trains that are on these upside down inverted tracks. You have I don't even want to say electric cars, but electric personalized cars that are one passenger vehicles. You have this sprawling, multi-level elevator assisted city, and that just doesn't make any sense to me how one city can be so much more technologically advanced than the others. I don't think any of them kind of exist in the same timeline. It's like they're all kind of isolated in their own bubble. But something I think is incredibly important about Lone Star City is I think Lone Star City in particular is isolated and protected with the technology that it's developed to protect itself from the temporal loop. And the evidence that I have to suggest this is the fact that not only do the Elite Four members that we meet in each cycle retain their core memories from previous cycles, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they retain their memories and their fortress is also in Lone Star City. You think about it as well. Shurikane always seems to strike or is based in Lone Star City. I say always, even though we're on the second loop. But in this most previous loop in season 2, he has taken over Lone Star City. He seems to be in complete control of each cycle, and I'm not really understanding how that happens. I have a theory that it's because he is based in Lone Star City, whether it be a secret base or what. But I think he does his evil deeds, his scheming, his plans, and is in Lone Star City as a barrier so that his memories are protected and that his plans always seem to come to fruition. I think he's 100 years more advanced than we are when it comes to planning, because he's taking down these legendary Kardmi, these little gods, every single cycle. He took Shimura this season, which was the god of the dreamscape. He took down Kulkin in season 1, which was the literal god of time. So I'm just sitting here wondering, I was like, how is this trainer being able to defeat these gods? And when you think about it in the context of their city is 100 years more advanced than ours, and he's been sheltered from the temporal loop in that loop in there, it makes some sense as to how he's had time to discover the secrets of these legendary Kardmi, discover the weaknesses, how he's going to plot and take over the timelines. I do think the only thing I can think of that could potentially debunk my theory is the fact that in this season we did get some more information about him, some more backstory, and we saw that how he ended up becoming a bad guy was because the loop affected him. And he kind of slipped into madness the more times that he kind of rose to power. And he started out trying to do things the right way, and eventually he's like, you know what, if I can't have any peace, no one's going to. So the temporal loop drove him insane. But what I will say, and I will mention in some of these cutscenes, and it was a bit unclear, a bit ambiguous, but to me it looked like he is a resident, or was a resident, starting out of Sweetwater Town. He did not look like he was living in Lone Star City in any of these cutscenes when he talked about how the loop had affected him. So it makes me wonder if he eventually figured out that if he moved to Lone Star, he would be sheltered from this temporal loop. I think the biggest question I have left when it comes to Kardmi is what is causing the temporal loop, because in season 1, I thought we kind of figured it out. We get to the penultimate fight, we fight him, and we find out he's taking control of Kulkin, like I said, the god Kardmi, the Kardmi god of time, excuse me. And then we end up defeating him and Kulkin both get sucked into the temporal loop. So it makes me wonder, if it wasn't his control of Kulkin causing the loop in general, what did? Unless, and we're about to get really twisty, we can do the chicken and the egg theory here, that he was driven insane by the loop, but the loop exists because he caused it, right? So, like, what I'm saying is, what if he was driven insane by the loop, and that caused him to go out and seek revenge, and what he calls revenge. Capture, defeat Kulkin, right? And then use Kulkin to manipulate time, but in doing so, tore into the space-time continuum, thus creating a temporal loop that we find ourselves trapped in now. And then, so he exists by his own creation. And then that's why he's so desperately trying to escape the loop he's now created. Even control of the god of time, Kulkin will not seal the loop. And I think he needs our help, but will never admit that he needs our help. He mentioned in this season here that he just wants it to end. He doesn't want to go on anymore. So I think this is a really interesting theory. I do wonder, in this second kind of theory, sub-theory, if that really disproves that Lone Star City is shielded, because I feel like they have to be. I feel like they have to be that much more advanced, unless they're just in like each city kind of exists in like a pocket dimension, and then that gets really twisty turny when you think about how the trains get to each area, and because that would mean like the trains are kind of time traveling as they travel to each island. But I would love to know what you guys think down in the comments. I think I'm kind of onto something when I mentioned like the egg and the chicken theory, that he created the temporal loop, but he only created the temporal loop because he was driven insane by the temporal loop, if that makes any sense. It's a constant, for lack of a better word, loop that has no beginning and has no end. It's going to be up to us to solve this mystery and how we can seal this wound in space-time so that we can stop the loop in general. I don't know if there would be any redemption for Chicane, but you guys let me know down in the comments what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.